Recently, Nigerians have been facing a steady rise in the cost of everyday goods and services. From food to transportation, prices keep increasing, making it harder for people to afford basic necessities. The National Bureau of Statistics reported that inflation in Nigeria has reached one of its highest levels in recent years, driven by several factors. One major cause is the rising cost of fuel. Since Nigeria removed fuel subsidies, petrol prices have more than doubled, making transportation and goods more expensive. Farmers and traders who rely on fuel to transport food are now charging higher prices to cover their costs. A bag of rice that once sold for 30,000 Naira now costs over 50,000 Naira in many markets. Another factor is the weakening Naira. The exchange rate between the Naira and the US dollar has made it more expensive to import goods. Businesses that rely on imported materials have to pay more, and they pass this cost on to consumers. This affects everything from electronics to medicines, pushing prices even higher. Even basic services like telecommunications are affected. The Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) recently approved a 50% increase in tariffs for calls, data, and text messages. Telecom companies argue that rising operational costs, including fuel and foreign exchange rates, make this necessary. However, many Nigerians are unhappy because they are already struggling with high costs in other areas of life. With inflation rising and incomes staying the same, people are forced to cut back on expenses. Some now buy smaller food portions, while others struggle to afford school fees and rent. Many believe the government should step in with better policies to control inflation and protect citizens from rising costs. But what exactly is inflation, and why does it keep happening? Stay with us as we explain this concept through a simple African folktale in the next section. Once upon a time, in the heart of a vast land, there was a village called Orison. It was a village of hardworking farmers, traders, and craftsmen. The people of Orison took pride in their self-sufficiency. They grew their own food, made their own clothes, and traded among themselves. The village was always bustling with energy, and the marketplace was the heart of its economy. Every year, after the harvest season, the people gathered for a great festival to celebrate abundance. They would dance, feast, and give thanks for the blessings of the land. One year, the harvest was particularly good. The rains had come at the right time, the soil had been rich, and the farmers worked tirelessly to store up food for the months ahead. As the villagers filled their granaries, a sense of security spread across Orison. There was more than enough to feed every family. People expected food prices in the market to remain stable or even go down because of the surplus. But to everyone's surprise, something strange happened. The price of grains began to rise instead. Baba Tonji, the village elder, was a wise man who had lived many seasons and seen the village change over time. He noticed that despite the abundant harvest, the price of grains was increasing every market day. A basket of millet, which had cost 2 cowrie shells the previous season, now cost 4. The price of maize doubled, and yam sellers were demanding more for their produce. Baba Tonji called for a gathering at the village square. The entire village came, eager to hear what he had to say. "My children," he began, "something unusual is happening in our land. We had a good harvest, yet food prices are going up. What could be the cause of this?" The villagers murmured among themselves. Finally, one of the traders, Moman Kechi, stepped forward. "Baba," she said respectfully, "we traders did not wish for prices to rise. But we hear troubling news from other villages. Some nearby lands suffered droughts. Their crops failed. We fear they may soon come here to buy our food. If that happens, we might not have enough for ourselves." Another trader, Papa Didi, added, "It is not just that, Baba. The road leading to the next town is in bad shape. It now takes double the time to transport goods. The men who carry our goods demand higher wages. We have no choice but to increase prices." The village hunter, Kola, also spoke up. "Even the cost of meat has gone up. The blacksmiths say iron is more expensive, so new hunting tools cost more. If I spend more on arrows, I must sell my meat at a higher price." Baba Tonji listened carefully. He understood that these were valid concerns. But he also knew that if prices continued to rise without control, many poor families would not be able to afford food. Baba Tonji decided to explain the situation using a simple story. "Let me tell you the story of the greedy cowrie," he began. Once, in a different village, there was a trader named Okoro. Okoro was a wealthy man who sold grains. One day, he heard rumors that war might come and food would become scarce. Even though there was no war yet, he decided to keep most of his grains in storage and sell only a little at a time for higher prices. Because Okoro increased his prices, other traders followed his example. Soon, the cost of food became so high that even fishermen, weavers, and hunters had to charge more for their goods to afford food. A fisherman who once traded 2 fish for a basket of grain now needed 4 fish to buy the same amount. As prices rose, the village's chief ordered more cowries, the money they used, to be distributed so people could afford to buy food. But because there were now more cowries in the market, traders raised their prices even more. The more cowries people had, the less they were worth. At first, Okoro was happy. He was making more cowries than ever. But soon, he realized his wealth was not growing, his cowries could buy fewer things than before. In the end, the entire village suffered, and people became poorer, even though they had more money in their hands. Baba Tonji looked at the villagers and said, "This is how inflation works. Prices go up, and people feel like they need more money. But if money increases without more goods to buy, prices will keep rising, and in the end, nobody wins." The people of Orison now understood why food prices were rising. While some reasons were beyond their control, like drought in other villages and bad roads, some were caused by fear and speculation. Baba Tonji asked, "What can we do to stop prices from rising too fast?" Moman Kechi, the trader, said, "Perhaps we should sell fairly, instead of holding back goods in fear of scarcity." Popo Didi, the transporter, added, "If we repair the roads together, transportation will be cheaper, and prices may come down." Kola, the hunter, said, "If we don't let fear control us, we can find other solutions instead of just raising prices." The villagers agreed to take action. They decided to regulate their prices, only increasing them when necessary. The chief sent people to fix the roads, making trade smoother. And Baba Tonji continued to teach them about wise money practices. The story of Orison teaches us that inflation is not just about having more money, it's about how prices rise due to many factors, including fear, supply problems, and increasing cost of production. If people panic and raise prices too quickly, they make life harder for everyone, including themselves. This is the same thing happening in Nigeria today. Inflation makes food, transport, and everyday items more expensive. If businesses, traders, and policymakers do not manage it wisely, it will keep growing, making life difficult for ordinary people. But just like the villagers of Orison, if we understand what causes inflation and take smart actions, like improving supply chains, managing money wisely, and controlling unnecessary price hikes, we can slow it down.